Taoiseach himself spoke there about how it was in May 2019 that the Dáil declared a biodiversity emergency and called for a citizens' assembly. It'll be 3 years will have passed by the time that a citizens' assembly is actually established. That isn't exactly moving swiftly. That isn't exactly recognising the scale of the emergency that faces us. 1/4 of bird species in Ireland are, quote, serious conservation concern. 77 species of plants and animals are officially endangered. The European Commission has 15 open infringement cases against Ireland over environmental issues. And what there is an absence of from the government is action. Take the example of marine protected areas. In 2010, the government then promised we'll have 10% by 2020. They didn't. They're still at 2.4%. Still no legal definition of marine protected areas. The ones that we do have are really just exist on paper. The question is whether the government will take action following the inevitable advice from the Citizens' Assembly.
Basically, I welcome the comments made in respect to the biodiversity Citizens' Assembly, articulated by Deputy MacDonald, Deputy Christopher O'Sullivan. I do take the point that we need to do more in respect to the review of the NPS, National Parks and Wildlife Service, and indeed the Agri-Environment Scheme, and I think we need to work, and that's where the carbon tax funds are important as well, to provide funding for that agri-environmental scheme. In respect of the Citizens' Assembly on drugs that Deputy O'Riordan has raised with Deputy Horrigan, I did say it would be the latter part of the year, but in the interim, not just interim, I mean, officials in my office are working in terms of time, endeavouring to recreate an area-based partnership approach in key areas that are suffering the most from the drugs epidemic and the impact on societies and communities. I think we need to revert back to the old rapid approach, drug task force areas, where we need multidisciplinary and multi-pronged approach across departments, across agencies, from the bottom up, to deal with a lot of what's happening on the ground right now. So we're not waiting for the Citizens' Assembly to do work in relation to drugs, but the intention is that we'd have the Drug Citizens' Assembly set up in the latter part of this year. In relation to my own view in terms of reconciliation on the island, I think we need to engage both at political party level and in terms of a community level, different traditions coming together. I'm not clear in my own that a Citizens' Assembly is the best model in terms of dialogue and in terms of the more consistent long-haul engagement that's required. The kind of long-haul engagement that led to the Good Friday Agreement. A Citizens' Assembly would not have led to a Good Friday Agreement.